Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are going to talk about some league and coaching news. We are going to review Senior Bowl practice performances up until the game, which is Saturday afternoon, and we are going to be previewing the Super Bowl. But first, let's recap the AFC and NFC championship matchups. All right, we've got a divisional matchup here between the number 6 team in the NFC, the Washington Commanders, at the number 2 Philadelphia Eagles. Jeff, what did you make of this game?
So the Eagles dominated this game 155-23. It does really show the amount of talent discrepancy between the two teams outside of quarterback. And I believe, and I think that you also believe, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, that the Philadelphia Eagles have the most talent out of any team in the NFL right now. Their biggest question mark coming into this year and coming into the playoffs was coaching. And I think they held together just enough to be able to make this run. Speaking of running, the Eagles ran all over the Commanders in this one. I think they had 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns in this game. So that is pretty unheard of. They are almost allergic to throwing the ball. So I would love to see what happens if the Eagles fall behind a little bit. But I don't know if we'll ever be in a position to see that this year. But the Commanders also were the team to make more mistakes. And basically what that did is give Philly the ball more often to be able to run it down their throat. And yeah, I think you had mentioned earlier that in this playoff, so far to this point, the team that wins the turnover battle wins the game.
Yep, that definitely remained true for this game. I will say that Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels had almost the same amounts of yardage through the air and same number of touchdowns through the air. It's just Jaden Daniels threw the ball 20 more times. So I just think the Eagles were just more effective, more efficient. They imposed their will on Washington. Washington really didn't have any answers for them. So the Eagles did a really good job, and I thought the Eagles defense would be the difference maker, and I believe that it was. So
in an alternate universe, if Barkley signed with the Commanders, do you think that the result of this game would have been the same? Or basically what I'm asking is the deficiency between Robinson and Eckler and Barkley, the biggest difference in this matchup?
I think the Eagles still would have won. I think it would have been more like 45-30, but the Eagles still would have won.
But we both picked the Eagles. We both won this one. Any other takeaways in this matchup?
I like that A.J. Brown got involved in this one, even though they didn't really need to throw that often. But I think that they're going to give the Chiefs a good run for their money next week, and I can't wait to talk about that at the end of the episode.
Absolutely. And you just gave a spoiler away for the next game here. It's the number 2 Buffalo Bills at the number 1 Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs beat the Bills 33-29. Alex, what did you notice in this particular game?
Oh, man, I thought the Bills were potentially going to win this game. I think we both picked the Bills. I really wanted the Bills to win. It looked good for a good portion of this game, but they stopped running the ball with James Cook, which I think hurt them tremendously because they were actually being effective. They couldn't get Amari Cooper or Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid going at all. The only one that really had an explosive play besides James Cook's 33-yard run is Mac Hollins' 34-yard touchdown catch, which was a really nice catch. No one else could do anything. And I think Josh Allen actually threw the ball pretty nicely. And had a crucial drop by Dalton Kincaid that Kincaid should have caught that would have moved the chain. I don't know. The first half, it looked like everything was moving, and Allen was literally passing to a different receiver on every play. And then they got one-dimensional, and they couldn't catch the Chiefs and made too many mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. They came out of the half running the ball, and they ran it. I think they ran every play of that first drive out of the half. And they scored a touchdown on it. And I think it was a pretty cool I think that was the cool James Cook one where he was turned one way but stretched over the goal line. But I heard you mention Mac Hollins, that I believe you and I had a disagreement offline the day of, saying that he was the seventh option. He did not look like the seventh option on the biggest game of the year. And he came in his Muppet attire to the game and no shoes, as per usual. So I know my wife was like, isn't he worried about getting parasites on his feet? And clearly he's not. So that is a true fact.
Parasites? That's an interesting comment. Jeff, I will say there are 4 wide receivers that had 4 targets, and Mac Hollins was one of them. Khalil Shakir had 7 targets. So
he's the number one, for better or for worse, I guess. He's not an alpha, though. We can agree on that, because he's not commanding double-digit targets a game. But
none of these receiving options are actual alphas.
Yeah, I think that the Bills had some suspect play calling here. I think the Bills didn't do Josh Allen any favors to start the game, where he was passing the ball every play to start the game, and he almost threw 2 interceptions on that first drive. I don't know why they didn't run the ball there, get him comfortable, get him in the right mindset of the game, even potentially get him his first hit of the game. So give a quarterback sneak. Like, sometimes players need that first hit to like really snap into the game, especially a game of this magnitude. And Brady kept calling that same stupid quarterback sneak play to the left, and the Chiefs were 110% on it. The Bills didn't even change up the cadence, which I guess falls more on Allen than Brady. They could jump the snap, and that's a big issue. There was that one play where I believe Josh Allen got the first down, but the refs don't, and I don't have any proof, like solid proof, that he didn't. And I hate that the Bills left it to the officials to make a judgment call on that very crucial play that could have put the game out of hand for Kansas City. Also, Kansas City scored with 3 minutes and 33 seconds left, because there was 3:33 on the clock, because I remember making a note of that. And Buffalo was unable to do anything with the ball after that. If you remember correctly, Buffalo left Kansas City 13 seconds on the clock, and Patrick Mahomes was able to do something with that. So they're going to have to really take a long look in the mirror here. I know folks want to blame the officials on this game and give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt, but the Bills really did have a couple of things that they could have done differently that would have taken this game completely out of the officials' judgment calls. So that's just my opinion.
Join the dark side. Join the dark side, Jeff. Blame the officials.
No, because I believe the Bills didn't do everything right on their side. So if the Bills had done everything right and there was just 1 or 2 calls that went against them, then I would be much more apt to join your side. But their play calling stunk in the beginning of the game, even at the end of the game. Their quarterback sneaks stunk.
And the tush push made it. Say the tush push made it. Say it. Say the tush push.
Well, they're not even doing that, though. They're not even having a guy behind Josh Allen pushing him. They're just having him hit the left hole.
He went like upright instead of this way, which is what he's supposed to do. But
and it turns your quarterback into a piñata, basically. So you're just getting him hit.
They clearly didn't practice it that well.
No, it's just and then to like lead the drive that they did with 3:33 left, where they had an impact. They had a shot to score a touchdown and win that game. And the effort that they put up was pretty abysmal. So I would love to blame the officials, but I'm also not very happy with the effort of the Buffalo Bills on this one, even though they lost by 4 points, which I guess shows how good that they actually are if they don't put up the effort that I expect, and they still only lose by 4 points to the defending champs.
Well, they arguably could have won by 3 points if the officials didn't rule Worthy catching that one pass that touch the ground.
It's allowed
You know
to
what I'm
touch the
talking about?
ground, though, if it's not moving, and it did not move when it hit the ground.
Yeah, but the argument is neither the receiver or the cornerback. I'm talking about the worthy pass that
Yeah.
he had two corners, two defensive backs right there fighting over the ball. And it looked like neither one had full possession. It went to the ground, and the ball actually hit the ground. I thought it moved when it hit the ground, in my opinion, but they
Yeah.
ruled it a catch and they ruled it for worthy, which put the Chiefs in the red zone. And I think the Chiefs scored a touchdown on that drive, I believe.
They absolutely did. It is the correct thing to do to give it to the tie to the receiver. I will take your point, though, on the whole, who did anyone have possession when it hit the ground? And what does the NFL rulebook say if two players have possession? Does that mean no one has possession? I would love to dig further into that.
It means they have to pause the game, give both of them a switchblade, and see which one survives. That's what I think.
There you go. But Worthy has shown some really good flashes down the stretch here. And, like, I don't know. I feel like KC brought him along very slowly, kind of like they did Rashee Rice. And if Rice has the production when he comes back from suspension next year that he had this year, that is going to be amazing. Plus, he'll have an extra 4 weeks of recovery, so they won't be rushing his recovery. He's almost benefiting from this suspension because I'm anticipating it to be 4 games. That's a little bit of a benefit for him and for the Chiefs because they don't have to feel like they need to rush him to the playing field. So they can really take their time with him. And if Worthy continues to progress like this, there's no reason to bring Hollywood Brown back. There's no reason to bring DeAndre Hopkins has been a footnote in this offense that you've been begging for him to go to for 3 years.
They waited a year or two too long. That's what I think.
I hear
But
you.
the Chiefs, I mean, they obviously had Rice to begin with, but they brought in Hollywood Brown, who then got hurt. They brought in Xavier Worthy as a first-round draft pick. He wasn't polished enough and ready enough to really perform at a high level right away. That was never his game. So they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster and DeAndre Hopkins to kind of help fill the void. And like you said, I think now late in the year, at the end of the regular season and like playoffs, Worthy has kind of stepped up more. So I think he could be a more crucial focal point in this offense, especially if someone like Travis Kelce retires. I do think that Rice is going to still be a little banged up, recovering from his own injuries. But if they play it off as like he's already healthy and then they get the suspension, it can kind of overlap the injury recovery with the suspension. He'll be fine by the time he comes back, most likely. So the two of them together might be really good. I don't know if they'll keep Hollywood Brown or DeAndre Hopkins around next year. They might if they can get them for like veteran minimum or cheap. Hollywood Brown might be better off going somewhere else to a team that's even more receiver desperate. So we'll
Hollywood
see how that
Brown
shakes.
deserves to give the Chiefs a discount after only playing in 4 games this year. Buy one, get one free.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to get the contract he was hoping to get after sitting out most of the year.
No, and I don't think he's that good of a receiver. I thought his skill set fit well with Patrick Mahomes, especially given what Tyreek looked like in that offense at one point. But that was heartbreaking to watch the Buffalo Bills lose. I was really hoping for them to win. I have a lot of Buffalo Bills fans in my life that just need one Super Bowl in their lifetime, and here we are still waiting for it. But another note from the Bills game is they lost their starting cornerback to a concussion, and they put Elam out there, and Elam looked terrible. He got eaten alive. Like they didn't have anyone else on the bench that could have performed better than him. Like that's a question mark.
Your only defensive back that is reasonably effective is the one that got hurt. You have one good defensive back. The others are all replaceable players, in my opinion.
I was saying offline that Carolina should go all defense in the draft this upcoming year, but I also believe Buffalo needs to rebuild their defense based on how many veterans they let go last year. They let like 6 or 7 vets go on offense and defense last year. They let like Micah Hyde, they let Stephon Diggs, they let Poyer go, they let a whole bunch of leadership and skill go last year to just try to start saving money for the future. And this is the year where they can restock and reload some of those cupboards because they are looking pretty bare on defense. And
yeah, and it's really funny because for the Texans, I want the opposite. I want them to only draft offensive players. Their defense is perfectly fine. If you spend a first round pick or second round pick on a defensive player, I will lose my mind. Just draft every offensive lineman you can possibly stuff onto this team. Draft one quality receiver. That's all we need. Just restock that group.
we will see. We will see. All right, Alex, we can hop over to some league news. There isn't much this week. We're down to only one head coaching open spot now after the Cowboys hire their offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer as their new head coach. Do you like this hire? Does it have a shot to be successful, or do you think this is just a dud hiring?
I won't say there's a 0 chance of this working out because they have indicated that one of the reasons why they moved on from McCarthy is old school like Aaron Rodgers and wants no motions or very little motions, no movement, no creativity. Schottenheimer wants to move towards motions. They're already familiar with him. He's had offensive coordinator experience before. He was a passing game coordinator for them, technically offensive coordinator, even though he didn't call plays this past year. So they know him. He wants to be creative. He's probably cheaper than other options. It could maybe work out, but it's very uninspiring and feels like there's still a lot better options out there. Granted, maybe they know that these coaches don't want to go to Dallas because they won't have any say over the roster and will get strung out. Yes, Jerry lets people basically work on their entire contracts, but to get hung out to dry and be a lame duck coach like he's done to so many other coaches, not have any say over the roster, I think that's very unappealing. And I don't think Dallas is the sexy destination that it used to be.
Yeah, and I can say at the age of 86, or 82, and this contract goes to 86. I could say that this is one of Jerry Jones's last hires, probably too, at head coach. So it may not be his last, but it'll be one of his last. So
I don't know if you've heard, but the rumor is his sons are the ones that pushed for Brian Schottenheimer. Jerry himself is said to have wanted Deion Sanders, and his sons talked him out of it and went with Brian Schottenheimer. So I think that his sons are penny pinchers, and I think Jerry's all about big names, and we're seeing who's starting to win the power struggle already. So this is what the team could be like when the Suns take over after Jerry.
So could his sons be just as power hungry as him, though, and not want to cede power to a powerful head coach like Deion Sanders?
Probably.
So that could not just be penny pinching; it could be power pinching too. Like he might be, they might be looking at the future when they're taking over the franchise, and they want to continue to be the faces of the franchise. The Jones is.
It could also be that they want to maximize their profits and how much they're getting rather than paying someone else twice as much as they're paying Schottenheimer.
Yeah. No offense, though. After you have over a certain amount of money, it's all like gravy at that point, unless you could spend it as fast as you get it.
Some people say the more you have, the more you want. So maybe the Suns are just trying to conserve as much inheritance as they can. I don't know. But I think we should just briefly touch some other coaching openings that are still left over before we move on to the next item. So we've talked about the Saints head coaching job being the last one open. It looks like Kellen Moore's the number one option for them at this point, because we've had Joe Brady withdraw, we've had Mike McCarthy withdraw, which is kind of funny considering his connections with Mickey Loomis. We've had Cliff Kingsbury withdraw. Can you remember anyone else that's withdrawn from the some Saints consideration?
That was the main ones that I recall. The McCarthy one's interesting because I think working with Jerry for 4 years really scarred Mike McCarthy in the sense that he's going into head coaching jobs looking for some say, where I don't believe he had any say with the Cowboys like roster construction wise. So I think that's where Mickey Loomis, he balked a little bit at the Saints. Like, I don't think they're willing to give him roster control.
So what I've heard for the Saints and McCarthy situation is he's really good friends or at least casual friends with Mickey Loomis, so they have that connection.
Yep.
But I think he went into the meetings with the ownership like he had it in the bag and it was already his. And he really put the ownership off in the interviews. So the ownership didn't want to work with him. So he kind of tanked his own interview on accident. He is not being paid by the Cowboys anymore. His contract is expired. He wasn't fired. His contract expired. So he has no incentive to sit out this year because he's not earning additional money. So him pulling out means that they really didn't want him at all after that interview.
That's true, but he's also not going for any offensive coordinator positions. He's not looking for a job, period, at this point.
Oh, he's not poor. Yeah, he's not desperate for a job, but
if I were making recommendations to him, because I do believe that he's one of the 32 guys that should have a head coaching gig in the NFL, at least right now, I believe that he should go into media and do a year of media so he could stay really fresh with all the players, watch a lot of the games, give some feedback on all of the players, some analysis on them, and just kind of go from there. It worked for Bill Belichick this year. Show some personality. I think a job will be open for him very shortly.
I don't know if he'll ever get a head coaching job anymore. I think that this might be it for him. I will note that there's some teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Houston Texans that are still trying to find their offensive coordinators. And one of their potential candidates, was hired by the Seattle Seahawks. Clint Kubiak, who was the Saints offensive coordinator last year, made the Saints somewhat bearable with how bad their roster was. He made their offense look okay. I think he's an upgrade for the offensive coordinatorship for Seattle, and I think he will be coaching against his brother, who I believe is on the San Francisco 49ers with Shanahan. So, good hire there. Still looking for the Texans and Tampa Bay Buccaneers to hire their replacements and see how that's going to affect the offenses. But I like what the Texans are doing right now with their interviews. They're looking at younger guys, and it seems like they're also planning who the next OC after that is going to be. So they have a plan for after the current hire that they'll make, who the successor will be that they'll target after that, which I like. But I have no idea who this one's going to be. I can't tell what direction they're leaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see in the next couple of weeks as teams fill out their coaching staff. But I don't know. The Saints just feel like they're in no man's land with Kellen Moore, when they basically have the one job that's open out of 32 jobs. You would think that they would have this wide net and figure out the best coaching hire. I will argue that Dak Prescott had his worst year under Kellen Moore. So I'm not sure Kellen Moore is this offensive guru that people think he is, but I hope that I'm wrong. And I'm not sure he works with Derek Carr. Kamara's aging. Olave has a concussion history now. It's not as good of a job as people think it is. So Saints could be bottoming out in the next couple of years.
Yes, but maybe they want to tank to get Arch Manning in 2026.
That's true. Players and coaches don't tank, though. Remember that.
No, but
ownership might try to.
You can set up the team to be awful and hope that they lose out.
Well, they might just have to be awful due to their cap situation.
This would be the year to take the cap hit and just wreck your team, but get rid of all the bloat, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's just there's some problem with that. Like Taysom Hill obviously tore his ACL, so you're going to have trouble cutting or trading him because he won't pass a physical to be cut or traded. Kamara just re-signed a 3-year deal, which has new signing bonus money. So that's all money that they front and floated to him. So Kamara is untouchable. Olave's still on his rookie deal, I believe, which, man, talk about a wasteland of a wide receiver. That's where Olave is chilling right now in the wasteland. But yeah, that's all I have on the coaching area.
All right. Well, we can move on to the last news item here. Jeff, would you give me a hand with this one?
Yes, I will. And I see what you did there. Almost walked right into it. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate conduct, to say the least, at 2 different massage parlors with up to 6 masseuses. He's been banned from a few of them, reportedly. And then I think you were saying before we got on here that he had been welcomed back to them, and there is quotes from the massage parlors off the record that they accept the Ravens business because that's how they make their living. So that all would check out. If this is true, this is really despicable. But here we are with another NFL player and another masseuse issue.
So the whole story was broken by the Baltimore Banner, which was brought in as a nonprofit competitor to the Baltimore Sun. It's owned and operated by a rich billionaire who feeds half of its revenue from donations. So it's a startup. It's not profitable yet. They're trying to gain traction. So they broke this story. They have a good record as of yet. They're new. So still relatively clean. So that's in their favor that they haven't really been busted with anything egregious. The downside is I don't know how much they've vetted all of this. They say that they spoke, we don't have many details. They say they spoke to these girls and they said the girls let them know about it and they released it. And then Justin Tucker came out and questioned that. And then the Baltimore Sun came out with a video with 4 news team members and they talked about it, and now they changed the story. One of them was at a barber shop and he heard a rumor about it, so he Googled it on his phone, found tweets from 2021, which Jeff and I looked at offline, and it's people talking about they know someone, a girl they went to high school with, had bad things to say about Justin Tucker from massages, and what they were either told that that's just the price of doing business because they need the money from the Ravens players, or they were let go. There's been a couple jokes and some Reddit posts about Justin Tucker being banned from multiple spa parlors as far back as 2021 or maybe 2020. Nothing definitive. No news places picked it up at all, anything like that until recently. So I don't know why that would be. The legal side of it is that the criminal case wouldn't go anywhere because it's past the statute of limitations on that regard. The criminal case, no, I'm sorry, what is it? The civilian side of it probably wouldn't go anywhere either because it'd be a high burden of proof. And these girls, there's no charges brought as of this point. There's no real accusations from the girls. It was the Baltimore Banner reaching out and asking questions. They literally went on LinkedIn and Facebook and looked at all of these spas that would have been in the area and literally called anyone they thought could have been there at the time until they got 6 women to say that there was inappropriate action. And Justin Tucker has refuted it and outright denied it. And we're gonna find out after some investigations are done if anything was done or not. If this is a hit piece or was he really kind of a dirtbag? We'll find out. Either way, fantasy relevance, I think Justin Tucker's time as an elite kicker is done anyway. So if you're a fantasy owner and you were considering a kicker that misses 50-yard field goals, I don't know what to tell you. But we'll find out on the legal side if he's a dirtbag or not. I like to wait until we have all the facts, and I don't think that it's all out there yet.
Absolutely. We will see. Time will tell, but it's never a good thing to get these questions against you.
No, it's not good. But I also feel like people rush to the accusation side and immediately assume they're guilty. 6 girls is a lot. It's a lot, but we'll find out hopefully in the next few weeks what the situation is.
So we'll find out, but 6 girls over the course of 4 years, because tweets go back to 2021, January of 2021. So there is at least a history, an audit history of this, and I could easily see massage parlors saying, well, we make a good chunk of our money from the Ravens. If we don't have the Ravens, we don't even have this business, and they just look the other way. I could see all of that too. So that's the crazier part. But they always say money shows people your true self, and if this is Justin Tucker's true self, that he might be done
What's
in the
crazy
NFL.
is when this allegedly happened, he was an undrafted free agent kicker. So he would have gotten paid the least amount of a professional football player. So him acting like that with comparatively that little money as to now when he has a bit more money, that's what's weird and confusing. From someone who might have gotten cut at any point before he got his first guaranteed money. So
Absolutely.
it's a little weird, and the fact that it's like 10 years later that this comes out. Granted, there's tweets from 2021 from people who supposedly know these girls that are talking about it. So I don't know. I don't know why the girls didn't come forward to anyone about it before. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. So we can hop on to happier topics such as the Senior Bowl. Alex, I'll let you take it away here.
Okay, the Senior Bowl is geared up. It's getting ready for, as we're filming it right now, it's Friday the day before. Senior Bowl is Saturday afternoon, but this week of practice, we've had seniors, and in some cases, some underclassmen, been able to attend practices, meet with teams, do drills in front of position coaches. So we've gotten to see some of the guys that have gotten some hype and some of the guys who have disappointed so far. So I will just do an overview here. Most of the stuff coming out of the Senior Bowl, most of the news are typically involving defensive lineman, offensive lineman, or defensive back. From what I've seen, we only talk about the offensive skill positions in fantasy, so I will cover those. Running backs, the drills that they ran weren't indicative of performance, so no one really stood out in those drills. So we'll find out in the actual game on Saturday which ones of those are getting more attention. But as of right now, even though it's a very deep running back class, none of them really stood out in the drills. That's pretty neutral. The practice risers that did show out is Miami tight end Elijah Arojo. He looks like he can be a very good player in the NFL, and this is a deep tight end class as well. But he's showed explosive speed and ball skills, and he's made some good plays in drills. Got scouts and teams talking about him, as well as his Miami teammate, wide receiver Xavier Repo. He is someone that has some nice skill sets. He didn't pop as much as Elijah did, but he is someone that has looked like he's matching his tape in the drills, and someone that very curious how he tests in the combine as well. The next two guys are receivers that really popped in drills. A TCU wide receiver Jack Beck, who I think he should be called Jacked Beck because he looks like a linebacker playing wide receiver. He's ripped, humongous. He makes tough catches. He's someone who blocks really well, and he's someone that might break the mold of TCU wide receivers not panning out in the NFL. I think he's someone that's a little bit different. I'm very curious how he plays in the NFL. I think he's an intriguing name to watch, probably in the second or third rounds. His TCU teammate Savion dropped out, so we don't get to see how good he is. So that's unfortunate. But Oregon wide receiver Tez Johnson, who looks like almost a clone of Tank Dell and is even compared to him, he's shown out and made plays in basically every drill. He looks really, really good. So he's someone I think could maybe be top of the second round, maybe bottom of the first round at his ceiling. And then we've got two Iowa State wide receivers, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Both of them did very well. Jaden Higgins is a little bit bigger. Jalen Noel is smaller and quicker. They're showing out in drills a lot and making a name for themselves. And then the fallers are basically all of the QBs, but we'll specifically highlight the quarterbacks Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Milrow. They've not really done themselves favors. Milrow has had a couple of okay plays and like nice touchdowns, but then he is horribly off target for other plays. It's like up and down to the extreme, and Gabriel just doesn't look good at all. He was even shorter than scouts thought he was. They thought he was 6 foot. He tested at 5'11", He just doesn't look like a pro caliber quarterback. With that said, have there been quarterbacks that looked bad in the Senior Bowl practice and did well in the NFL? Yes. I mean, we have Bo Nix as one of them that did really well. So it's not the end all be all, but I'm not optimistic about those two quarterbacks uh, as pro quarterbacks in the NFL. And Georgia wide receiver Arian Smith has had drop issues the entire week of practice. He's very athletic, but if you can't catch the ball, then you're not going to succeed anywhere. And those are things that carry over to the pros. Haven't really been that many other fallers. A lot have been neutral in the skill positions. So we'll see as we come up to the actual game who performs and looks good there. I want to see what Jackson Dart does at quarterback. He's the Ole Miss quarterback. He's someone rising up. Some people compare him to your homeboy Gardner Minshew. I think he's might be closer to Baker Mayfield, maybe a lighter version of Baker Mayfield, but they're in the same stratosphere, in my opinion. I'm not excited about quarterbacks Will Howard or Riley Leonard, but if they do well, maybe they'll start changing people's minds. I do want to see what a slew of running backs do. So Michigan running back Donovan Edwards, who didn't have that good of a camp. Georgia running back Trevor Etienne. He looks more like a lightweight version of James Cook than his brother Travis. Oklahoma State Ollie Gordon II. I want to see if he's any good. Jarquez Hunter, the running back out of Auburn. Damian Martinez out of Miami. Devin Neal out of Kansas. And then obviously everyone wants to find out about Arizona State running back Cameron Scadaboo. I don't know if he's as good as his stats from his last bowl game are, but I'd be very curious if he can be a good running back in the league. There's a bunch of tight ends I'm curious about. Harold Fannin Jr., I think, could be really good, but he didn't impress compared to the other tight ends. Let's see. Wide receivers. Aya Minor didn't really do much this week. He's someone that I liked before. I'd like to see if he shows up or not. I would like to see Jaden Higgins play, Tez Johnson, Xavier Repo, Jalen Royals. All of these wide receivers would be very interesting to me, and we'll see if anyone else pops that I haven't highlighted. There are a bunch of players playing this weekend, so I'm very curious to see it, Jeff. Do any of these names intrigue you at all?
So ETN does only because of his brother, of course. But you said that he's a lightweight James Cook, which James Cook looked pretty good in the conference championship here, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, because it did take James Cook like a whole year to learn how to run in the NFL, so we could be down that path again. But obviously, I am very interested in the quarterbacks to see if anyone darts up the board. No pun intended there. But but yeah, we will see. And then you believe, where do you think Xavier Respro is gonna go?
Where do I think he's gonna what range he'll get drafted? Or
Yeah. What round?
what team? I think either round 2 or round 3. But
Okay.
maybe around the turn.
Okay. I've said offline too about Jaden Higgins. It would be really interesting to see him go to the Commanders and T. Higgins sign with the Commanders, and it would just be all sorts of confusion. Jaden Daniels, T. Higgins, Jaden Higgins, like just all sorts of confusion. But that's more fun for me watching the announcers struggle around that.
Iowa State's colors are the same colors as the Commanders.
There you
Kind
go.
of that dark red and goldish.
There you go. Any under the radar guys that are receivers that could show up like a Puka Nakua? I guess Justin Jefferson to a lesser extent because he was a first rounder but went later. Ross St. Brown, I think, was a second or a third round pick, right? So anyone that you could see that's a diamond in the rough.
A tough question to answer right now because I want to look at more guys. I want to watch film more. I think for me it might be coming from the underclassmen rather than the guys in the Senior Bowl. But I don't know if I can answer that right now. I think I'm leaning towards maybe a Trey Harris out of Florida, but he is not in the Senior Bowl.
Interesting. Because I think we can both admit that if we were redoing rookie drafts, that Puka Nacua would have went 101 last year.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have put him at 101, but he would have been top 3, top 5 for sure.
I couldn't even tell you one running back off of the 2023 draft.
It's Bijan Robinson and Gibbs.
So I probably would put those in my top 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would even be close. Do you think it would
And
be
then
close?
I think those would be top 3. I mean, you can talk about Zay Flowers, Addison,
JSN,
JSN, Tank
Jaden
Dell,
Reed,
Jaden Reed.
Rasheed
What are
Rice,
the She Rice. What are the other running backs from that year?
Chase Brown, Echan. That was a heck of a rookie draft looking back now. That was a heck of a rookie draft. There was one league that I'm in, Dynasty, and I know everyone likes to hear stories about other people's leagues, which is not true. But Puka Nacua went undrafted, and I grabbed him at the minimum deal for 4 years before he was getting any hype. But yeah, there was some really good names to come out that year. Benet, Spears, Bigsby,
Stroud.
your boy Kendre Miller.
Oh, what a disappointment he's been.
I hate to say it, dude. I think the ship has sailed on him. I don't see a third coach coming in and wanting to use him. Like, I think they would just start over. I think they cut Williams. I think they leave Miller on the roster because he's in a rookie deal. But I think they go out and draft or grab their own guy to back up Kamara now. That's how skilled players lose their jobs, because coaching changes and people want to bring in their own players. They could even trade him. I guess that's another reasonable expectation this offseason, after 2 years. See if anyone sees.
I don't think they'd get much for him.
Absolutely. But to only have 2 years left on your rookie contract, are you really re-signing him? So you might as well try to get something back for him. Because I don't think this is a playoff team in 2025.
I think they are competing for the number 1 overall pick next year.
Right. Anything else on the Senior Bowl before we hop to the Super Bowl?
No, we will just I'll go over performances. Anyone that pops in the actual game after the Super Bowl, after during the Super Bowl episode, the post Super Bowl episode, whatever.
Absolutely. That's great to know. And we also may start releasing our fantasy first rounds right around that time. So ready to talk 2025 fantasy football over here, at least.
All right, let's do it. Let's start now.
So the Super Bowl is the AFC's Kansas City Chiefs at the NFC's Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the NFC is hosting this year. And it will take place on Sunday, February 9th, and at 6:20 p.m., usually right around that start time. Might start at 6:30 this year. But this particular matchup, Alex, I'll go ahead with my pick first because I think you killed me in picks this year. So I will go with my pick here. I think this matchup is a nightmare for the Chiefs because they couldn't stop James Cook. And if you can't stop James Cook, you're probably not going to be able to stop Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley has no reason to not have 30 touches in this game, given the fact that there's no game the following week. So you're not resting him or saving him for anything. I think both Devonta Smith and AJ Brown are better than any wide receiver that the Chiefs have as well. I think the Eagles are much more talented than the Kansas City Chiefs, but I also believe that the Chiefs are much better coached than the Philadelphia Eagles. So here is the age-old question. Is it talent or is it coaching that makes the difference in the game here? I believe that both of these teams have been here before. I think this is the Eagles' second trip in 3 years. So they won't be starstruck like Brock Purdy and the 49ers the year before, or even the Eagles 2 years ago where it's Hurts' first appearance in the Super Bowl. I'm going to go ahead and give this to the Philadelphia Eagles, Alex. And talent should win out. They're not going to be starstruck. They are going to act like they've been here before. And Barkley will be the MVP of this game.
All right, I'm gonna choose the Kansas City Chiefs because the refs will make it happen. It'll be a three-peat. It'll be history.
Who are you notating for MVP here then?
Whoever the head ref is, whatever their name is.
Hockey Lee Jr. No, I don't know. That's the only one that I know by name.
Let's see.
But in reality, if the Chiefs win, it'll probably be Patrick Mahomes, the MVP, right? They don't have a running back. I don't think they have a receiver. Or I don't think Kelsey's spry enough to be the MVP. Maybe Taylor Swift will be.
Just mark me down for Ron Tolbert. He's the referee. He's the head referee that weekend.
All right, I'm marking it down. All right, so you're going KC. I'm going Philly. I don't see a way that Kansas City can stop the Eagles, but
so I think Kansas City is almost all coaching and Patrick Mahomes. Like those are their advantages. The Eagles, their advantage is all offense and defensive talent. It's like just waves and waves of talent. So will coaching beat raw talent? That's really the question. So that's the battle. I think coaching, because I don't want it to happen, Kansas City's going to win. So I might as well choose Kansas City.
There you go. Now you'll have to watch to see if you're right.
Be right. No, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah?
I won't do it.
It's part of your job now, sir.
The only way they'll fix the officiating, and when I say fix, I mean correct, not put the fix in, is if they have a huge ratings drop, then they'll do something about the officiating. But if the ratings don't drop, they won't do anything and they'll just keep doing it.
I hear you, but hear me out, sir. This is our last NFL action for 8 months, or for 7 months. And I don't know if I'm willing to give up my last little taste of NFL action for social justice.
This isn't social justice. This is ratings justice.
For cancel culture.
I'm not canceling. I just want to show one time I don't like this. Fix your officiating. Correct your officiating issues. Stop favoring particular players.
The only way they fix it is if they make every play review assist available, which is fine with me, and put better camera angles that the refs have, or that the officiating has in New York.
I think they already have the correct camera angles. I think they just aren't calling the game as it should be called.
We'll see if there's any changes this offseason. I would expect replay assist to be massively enhanced and much bigger.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading and listening to the episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2 Fantasy, and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.